Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to Fallen London. We are currently doing the Ballad of Johnny Croak's exceptional story, and we are about to rendezvous with the love-lorn anarchist. According to Johnny, the anarchist is renting a cellar beneath a lively dance hall. As you and Johnny make your way down the steps, you are forced to decline a cheery offer from the doorman to watch the ballet rehearsal. Below, you find yourself in a long and dingy corridor. Diagrams and damp, mottled London map fragments line the walls. At the corridor's end, you step into a meeting room where the walls are covered by graffiti and scorch marks. "The love of my life is stepping out with someone else," declares the love-lorn anarchist, raising his voice over the sound of thudding feet above. "I hear you can get rid of people permanently, because I would prefer that my romantic rival never come back." Is the anarchist sure he doesn't want you to go after a politician? A constable? An aristocrat? No? Apparently this is much more important. Okay, so we have a couple of options here. We can help Johnny assassinate the love-lorn anarchist's romantic rival. Like all of Johnny's victims, you won't actually kill the fellow, it'll just be very inconvenient. Still, not everyone gets to have a free holiday. Or we can persuade the romantic rival to go into hiding, just long enough to convince the love-lorn anarchist that you've successfully completed your contract. Or we can steal the bomb from the love-lorn anarchist. Why are you giving this fool the time of day? You could have snuck into his stores and made off with his bomb and his Sunday roast by now. Or we can empathise your anarchistic credentials. For the good of the cause, the love-lorn anarchist will give you the bomb now, without any of this knee-jerk assassination business. Or we can just tell the foreman what's happening. You've no desire to let a frog-crazed urchin get his hands on a real explosive. You tell her everything and find a way to put a stop to it. Let's go with that option, because I think I am going to side with the forewoman here. They're right, we don't want to give this man a bomb. You make excuses to Johnny. You'll help him acquire his bomb, but first you need time to prepare, leaving him back at his windmill. And looping back and forth several times to ensure you're not followed, you make your way to the forewoman's house at the edge of the marsh. She listens solemnly as you explain everything you've learned about Johnny Croak. "Here's what you're going to do," she says decisively. "I'll make a fake bomb and give it to you. You'll help Johnny acquire the real one from the anarchist, because heaven knows he shouldn't have access to such a thing. And you'll swap the fake over and safely bring the real bomb to me." How is she going to manufacture a fake bomb so rapidly? And why does she want to swap the bombs at all rather than just arrest the urchin? "My workers can put together a convincingly fake explosive device," she says. "We might need to add some gunpowder for authenticity, but not enough to do more than burn a little." He pauses. "As for why I want the attempt to happen, well, he has acquired something of a legendary status among the dregs of society. The proof of the attempted bombing will be enough to sway public sentiment against him once and for all." She's as good as her word. The next day, a fake bomb is delivered to your lodgings. Now you just need to acquire the real thing and perform the swap. Okay. Well, let's persuade the romantic rival to go into hiding, because I don't think... But then again, he could get a free holiday. Yeah, okay, let's side with Johnny. Let's do it Johnny's way, using an inkling of identity. You won't actually kill him. He'll just get a free holiday. The anarchist gave you the address and a name. When you arrive, you stake out the place for a day. The romantic rival, it transpires, is a dapper young chap with impeccable fashion sense and a faintly supercilious air. He receives a number of callers. You ring the doorbell. Johnny hits him with a bolt from his crossbow before he can say hello. And that's that. Except a long haul down to the docks. He's heavier than he looks. No wonder the anarchist didn't want to challenge him to a direct duel. After an hour of haggling, you wave off the departing steamer as it leaves port. In a day or two, the rival will wake up and have to adjust to his new life. He'll be back in London within a few months, though, right? Once you return to the anarchist and proclaim the job done, he cackles with glee. Now, I just need to introduce myself to my beau, he says, handing you a fearsomely large bomb as payment. Deciding the Marsh factory's fate, Johnny Croak sits in his crumbling windmill, the bomb tucked under his pillow, apparently for safekeeping. He's acquired blueprints of what the factory will look like when it's finished, and he's busy drawing a jagged explosion around it in pencil. From his observations, he's discovered an evening hour when all the builders have left the site, but the foreman's guards have yet to arrive. That's when he'll set the bomb to go off. He's firm on his course. You must decide where your loyalties lie. He will not be talked down now. I think I'm going to save the factory. Because at the end of the day, it's a hard choice. Because in reality, I'd probably side with the man. I mean, they're destroying the environment and things. But on the other hand, having favours with powerful factory owners in this sort of Victorian era, probably worth its weight in gold. So let's switch the bomb for a fake. It's a convincing forgery, and it'll be a lot safer under Johnny's pillow than a real bomb. The hour is late. Johnny has fallen asleep, his head resting on his ragged pillow. With a complete lack of common sense, he's tucked the bomb underneath. With the professional dexterity of a stage magician, you switch the real bomb for the fake one, cradling Johnny's head in one hand while the swap takes place. He makes a small noise, yawns and turns over, his cheek resting safely upon the fake. The operation was a success. You sneak off to your rendezvous beneath a drooping copse of secluded trees, colonized by virulent marsh fungus. Jasper and Frank are waiting. You hand them the real bomb, and they examine it, nodding approvingly. Okay, we appear to have read that bit at the top, so journeying to the half-built marsh factory. You and Johnny prepare your equipment and set off into Bugsby Marshes. You and Johnny trudge dismally through mud, over ditches, around ponds. You pass beneath a towering toadstool, spores settling on your shoulders like awful dandruff. A fungus column squelches along in the distance, tendrils thrashing, and you hide until it passes. He's much more subdued than the last time you accompanied him through the marsh. He doesn't say a single word about the frogs, just reiterates that his plans are sound. There should be no one in the factory. No one's going to get hurt. He repeats this like a mantra. Finally, you arrive. You clamber a mud bank and find yourself in the shadow of the half-built factory, its single chimney looming like a dark obelisk. The factory is bedecked in scaffolding. The site is heaped with bricks and rubble. The croaking, chirping marsh symphony is silent here. "This way," says Johnny, consulting his purloined architectural plans and ducking through a side door. As you walk, your lanterns illuminate row upon row of hulking spinners and steam hammers, each emerging suddenly from the dark like a monster from beneath a child's bed. Your footsteps echo in the vast emptiness. Half built, the factory is like a giant's hearth. So let's explore the marsh factory. What is Mr. Fires trying to hide, building a factory so far out in the marsh? Brushing your hand along the factory wall, you discover a section that's slightly raised. A door ingeniously hidden. Picking the lock is tricky, but not impossible. You descend a flight of stairs to discover a laboratory, not yet fully built. As you step inside, a pressure plate clicks beneath your foot, and a mechanical arm swings from the wall. It hisses harmlessly, a hair's width from your neck. The guillotine blade has not yet been attached. Mud seeps through the subterranean walls. An enormous machine of unimaginable purpose sprawls in the laboratory center, half assembled. Glass columns stretch from floor to ceiling, filled with murky liquid and nothing else. In the corner, a gramophone. When you turn it on, hellish screeching emanates, and you quickly shut it off. Spare parts litter the floor, stray cogs, a head-sized heart moulded from clay. "Come on, let's get going," says Johnny, glancing around nervously. "We don't have much time." As you climb back up to the main factory building, Johnny dashes ahead and slips away into the darkness. He comes back a few moments later, his face pale and ghoulish in the light of your lantern. "No guards yet," he whispers. "We still have time." "We need to find a place to plant the bomb. It needs to be right in the middle, under the chimney," says Johnny. "The chimney's integral. If it falls, it'll bring everything else down too." Below the chimney is a partly constructed coal burner, big as a mansion. Most of it is buried deep into the ground. It is yet to acquire the grime-caked patina that comes with any use. You swing open the hatch and peer into the darkness, raising your lantern high. The coal burner has developed a narrow split, perhaps due to some mistake in the construction. It was enough for the marshes to encroach. Stagnant water is pooled in the coal burner's belly. Hundreds upon hundreds of frogs hop back and forth, their confused croaks echoing oddly around the curved walls. Purple, pink, blue, yellow. You even recognise a smattering of orange ghost jewels. All the frogs you saw at Johnny's windmill are here, and more besides. Around the baffled frogs, in hindquarters, a morass of tadpoles writhe in the shallow, brackish puddle, gasping ineffectively, with undeveloped mouths. "Oh dear," says Johnny, poking his head into the coal burner. His small voice echoes. "This part of the marsh was their spawning ground for centuries. I suppose this little puddle is all that's left now. But once they get the factory up and running properly..." He falls silent. It's obvious what will happen as soon as anyone actually needs to make use of the coal burner. Repairs will be made, the water siphoned off, the frogs disposed of. "I hate to do it," says Johnny, "but there's plenty other frogs in the marshes, and they need to come to this place to spawn. If I don't blow these ones up, we could lose more than a few frogs in the long run. We could lose some entire species." But he hesitates. He can't bring himself to do it. Okay, so we have three choices. Tell him it's the only way. A few frogs sacrificed for the sake of all frog kind. Or we can ask him to not plant the bomb. Protecting frogs is sort of his entire persona, isn't it? Not just go around blowing them up. Or we can offer to plant the bomb ourselves. Blowing up a few frogs is likely to weigh less heavily on your conscience than his. It's a fake bomb, so technically the bomb's not going to go off, so let's tell him it's the only way. A few frogs sacrificed for the sake of all frog kind. You place a hand on Johnny's shoulder. If these frogs could think, they'd probably want to sacrifice themselves for the sake of their species' survival, but they can't think. They're frogs. He needs to think on their behalf. A new fire enters the boy's eyes. "Sorry about this, little friends," says Johnny, lighting the fuse and tossing the bomb into the pot-bellied machine. It lands with a splash. Frogs hop in all directions. "You must die so the next generation can live." Now is the time to run. You grab Johnny by the arm and together you dash from the factory into the safety of the surrounding marsh, your feet skidding and sliding wildly in the mud. After judging yourselves beyond the reach of any guard patrols, you and Johnny pause for breath amid a ring of toadstools, tall as obelisks. Silent descends. Silhouettes emerge from the shadows. A stubble-jawed man with a pistol leaps down from a toadstool's cap. A leering, cudgel-wearing woman rises from the mud. Jasper and Frank appear on either side of you without fanfare, their hammers in their hands. "What do we have here?" rumbles Jasper. "Looks like a right pair of scoundrels," says Frank. "What are you doing out in the marsh at this hour?" He grins. He suspects there may be a hammering in his immediate future. I warned you, says Johnny, backing away. I've hidden a frog in a hollow tooth. Its venom is amnesic. If you make any sudden moves, I'll bite down and forget everything I know. 2 options. Hand over Johnny to the Neddy men. His ballad is at an end, or we can help Johnny escape. You didn't want to blow up the factory, but that doesn't mean you think he deserves to spend the rest of his life in New Newgate. At this point, in for a penny, in for a pound, I think we're going to hand him over to the Neddy men. Before he can bite, Jasper has manacles around Johnny's wrists, and Frank plunges a pair of stone fingers into his mouth, withdrawing a gleaming frog. What do you know, Jasper? He says, sounding almost admiring. The boy weren't bluffing. Jasper searches Johnny and keeps finding new vibrantly coloured amphibians in unlikely places. The clay man is, of course, unpoisonable. Once they're satisfied he is unarmed and entirely unfrogged, the urchin is dragged away. I trusted you, Johnny calls after you, tears in his eyes. Frank pauses, laying a heavy hand on your arm. Sad when friends fall out, ain't it? My employer will be in touch. They're most grateful for your trouble. Oh, bugger, my constable's reputation was already 7. I could have lowered that before doing this. Bugger, bugger, bugger. Oh well. Ooh, hello, an audience with Mr. Fires. A few days after Johnny Croak was arrested, you are contacted by the rightfully paranoid forewoman. She invites you to an audience with her employer, Mr. Fires. When you arrive at his office, you find Mr. Fires seated behind a polished mahogany desk, stacked high with books and paperwork. The forewoman stands respectively to one side, her hands folded in front of her. A satisfactory result, murmurs Mr. Fires, shuffling its papers. Construction of the new factory proceeds as predicted, a particularly grubbly thorn in my side neatly removed. And most importantly of all, the workers have settled down again. Now they've seen what's become of the boy. We can await our reward. The forewoman leans over and whispers in the master's ear. Well, where you presume its ear must be, beneath the hood. Mr. Fires lurches to its feet and turns around, fiddling its gold-enamelled drinks cabinet. A particularly fine vintage, it declares, retrieving a dusty bottle from the bottom shelf. Have a drink on me to celebrate the opening of the new factory. It tosses you the bottle with affected carelessness. Unfortunately, you catch it. Year of the tortoise. I remember it well. Miserable. All years were miserable back then, except for the last few, when it all started to fall apart. That was when I finally started to enjoy myself. It pauses for a moment, lost in reverie. Yes, I still remember. The light. The merry dance of the flames. I paid for those ships. What business was it of theirs? What I did with them? Yet all the same, they made quite a spirited attempt to liberate me of my property. Spirited, but doomed. Mr. Fires sits down and waves a velvet-gloved hand to dismiss you. It just goes to show that wasn't a city that respected proprietary rights, not like London does. You are ushered from the master's study. We gained a bottle of Year of the Tortoise air rag, and I feel some lore there about how a previous city fell. If anyone knows which one, please fill me in. The fact that it's Air of the Tortoise makes me think, though it's air rag, makes me think it's the second city, but I could be wrong, obviously. And now, the epilogue. A few days later, you happen to be passing through Wolfsack Docks, and you witness an irate man in factory overalls stumbling down a gangplank. Half his face and all of his beard has been colonised by bristling yellow mushrooms. Let's ask him what's the matter. He looks to be in a terrible state. A boy! A bolt from the dark! He gasps. When I woke up, I was stranded on a boat to the artist room. Oh, the months of waiting, the loneliness, the spores. He coughs wretchedly and hands you a single crossbow bolt. Its hollow tip shattered. You instantly recognise it. This is what he used to knock me out. I've kept it all this time. As gently as you can, you tell him he needn't worry. His assassin is safely locked up, never again to see the light of day. I was just been to the artist room in Sunless Seas. I know where that is. Wonderful. And that is the end of the exceptional story. I feel there was other routes I could have taken which would have given me different, varied things, and I hope I picked one that other people didn't do, so you get to see something a little different. But either way, thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, let me know what you think. Your comments are greatly appreciated. And as always, I'll see you next time.